object-oriented programming, file input and output. So how to write and read files in Java. And Java offers multiple different ways to handle files. So we have, for example, file input stream and file output stream that we can use. And when we are using these objects, we are reading and writing in bytes. So not lines or strings, but bytes. And then we have file reader and file writer. And now we are reading and writing as a character. So Java fully supports UTF-8. So we can then write character that can consist of several bytes. And everything is found in Java IO library. And as these file reading and writing are, in that sense, they are dangerous. So you can try to read files that do not exist or try to write to a hard drive that is full. And then there can be errors, so we need to use these try blocks and then catch those exceptions. And in real life, when we are reading and writing the files, we usually use buffering because it makes the file handling much faster. So if we are handling just 1 byte at a time or character at a time, it can be very slow. It is very often that we want to read or write a line at a time. So we have a text file that we read one line at a time. And buffered reader helps in that sense. So we can use it very simple. We built a new buffered reader and we give it as a parameter file reader. So buffered reader uses file reader to read a file. In this example, we have this input.txt and we are reading that file. We are building a reader in this in object. And then we can also build a buffered writer. Similarly, it uses also this file writer then. And now we have this out object that we can use to write to this output.txt. Then we can read a line from that input.txt through this in object. It has a read line method and it gives us one line from that file, and that is now stored in this string input line. And then we can write that input line to another file, this output.txt using this out object, and it has this write method that then write this string to a file. So file reader is tied within a buffered reader, and let's have an example of these. So how to write to a file? That's a simple task. Let's do it just here. We are just writing to a file something. So what we are needing these buffered readers, we are needing file readers, etc. So let's start. Buffered reader. So this is taking something inside from the file, and it equals new buffered reader. And to this constructor we are giving a new file reader, and to the file reader we are giving a file as an argument. What should we read from? So let's just have input.txt like this. And now of course NetBeans is telling that we need to import few libraries like that, and then it's saying that we should even we should add this throw block clause, or then we should use try catch and we are using try catch here. So first we are reading that file, but then we are also writing to a file. So let's have a writer called out object. And let's have some kind of output here. And once again, we are now using new libraries. Let's import this, and then we should have a IO exception. So this might provide file not found, but this other one might provide this IO exception. So let's have it here. Like this. And now we should import this one. Okay, so now we are opening two files, and of course in the end we need to close those files. That would be good, like this. And then we should do something with the files. Let's first get some data to those files. Where is the file located? It's located here in the root of the project. So I'm creating a text file here called input.txt, and then I'm inputting something to this text file. I'm putting plenty of fruit names there, so we can read these as an input. And so now we have something like 50 lines or 100 lines there, so we need to use some kind of a while structure to read everything. So let's have a while, and we are reading a line, so we will need a string here, string line, and this line is something which this in object is providing us, so we can use this read line, and then we can check if it's not null. If it's null, then the file has ended. And now we can then check what is the line, and we are checking that if the line it's some kind of a fruit name. So if it starts with M, then we are going to write it to this output file. So out write, and yeah, string we are giving there, yeah, line. That was fine. So if it starts with M, then we are writing a line, but we also need to write the new line character there. So otherwise there will all the fruit names will be in the one line, but now we are making a new line there, so every fruit name is in this in its own line. Now we can check if this works. Let's see. Yeah, it seems to be no any errors, at least. Let's see what's inside our file. There is something. Yeah, so these were all that start with M. Quite nice, it worked. So now we can run this program again, and let's add those files, those fruits that start with S. And now we have once again run the program. What happens? Oh, there are just those fruits that start with S, so it overwrites the file. So what we want to do, if we want to append new information to the end of the file, then we are just giving here to the file writer a second parameter true, which means that it's appending to that file. Now we can add those fruits that start with M back to the file. So now this is a bigger file. So let's open it. Now we have all the fruits that start with S, like strawberries, and then we have melons also there. So it is working as we want it to. So this is one way to read and write files, and a good start when you are trying to learn how Java and file input output works. When we are talking about reading and writing files, we soon notice that we want to also read and write objects, or we need to transfer them over network. So what would be the best way to save, let's say, rocket or space station to a file? So object, basically it's just pile of bits. They are not letters or words, they are just bits. And that can be, of course, saved to a file. And we need a method to transform it back to an object. So if we have a file that is just full of bits, then we need to have a way to modify and transfer that pile of bits back to the object, for example, rocket. And this is luckily a built-in operation in Java, so we don't need to invent it again. Developers of Java have already built us this functionality. And the only thing you need to do is just implement the interface serializable. So after that, your objects can be saved to a file, or then a pile of bits can be transferred to, for example, rocket. And there is no need to implement any methods. You just need to implement the interface, which basically doesn't have any methods. After that, object and data structures can be written to a file and read from there when the program restarts, if that's what the developer wants. And you should design serialization carefully when using inheritance. If superclass is not serializable, then variables it contains do not serialize, and they get default values in the subclass when serializing. But here is an example on the right side. So basically, if we are writing, we just build a new object output stream object, and it uses file output stream class to access to a file. Then we just write some object. Here in this example, our object, we are writing that, and then we are closing the file. Similarly, when we are reading, we used object input stream, which uses file input stream, and then we can just read object and cast it to the type of object that we want to use. In this example, we have a rocket variable that can be type of starship, for example. And both of these, reading and writing, they can produce errors, so we need to use exceptions. We need to use these try catch blocks, and there might be IO exceptions, or in this reading part when we are casting this object, then there might be class not found exception. So these need to be taken care of. And let's have an example on how we can serialize things. Okay, what if we wanted to save our rocket to a file? So let's see. We have here a starship in this sh variable. Let's try to save this starship to a file. Let's save it here in the end. And what we are needing object output stream, which is of course new object output stream, and we are giving as a parameter to this constructor new file output stream. And once again we need to define a file. Let's call it a starship.ser, so it's something that we are serializing. And what we are getting from NetBeans, we should import few libraries like this, and then we should surround this statement with try catch, so we can get some kind of errors. Yeah, okay, are we still missing something? Yeah, IO exception. So this can provide both file not found exception and then more general IO exception. And now is the simple part. So we have this object or out. We can use that. Write, and there are plenty of write methods, but what we are writing an object there, and this starship is just what we want to write, and then we just close the file, and we can print out that starship has been saved. Not shaved, but saved. Yeah, what a Freudian slip. Yeah, okay. Let's try. Now it should save this rocket, and it did not, as our starship is not serializable. So let's modify our classes a bit. So rocket class implements serializable like this, and then we have a starship. Let's put it there too, like this. And then let's try again. So we are still getting errors. What kind of an error? So it is going to store astronauts, and astronaut is not serializable. Okay, let's add that too. Now it is. So here we are putting astronauts and cargo. Cargo, they are still only strings, but these are new objects, astronauts, so the astronaut should be also serializable. Let's see. Now it says starship has been saved. Let's go and find out. There is a new file. Let's open it. Here is our starship saved in a file system. So this is not just text, it's an object, so we cannot modify this this file, but we can try to read it. So let's go in the beginning of the file here, and let's try to read it. So what we are needing now, object input stream, O in, and this is once again taking a file input stream, and we are giving a file that we should read, and this is the file we created. And let's see what we need now. We need a file input stream and object input stream, and then we need to have a no, it went a bit too far. This is fine. Okay, so this is adding. No, I didn't want to put draw clause there, but catch clause. So now we are taking care of those. And we need to, of course, close this when we are done. But what we are doing here in the middle, so let's create a new starship. Starship from file equals null in the beginning, and there is no s. And now this reference should get something inside, so something that we are casting to starship, and we can use this our object input stream, and we are reading object like this. And now this should have a starship, and we can check its information. So let's run. So in the beginning we get a starship, and it has the following cargo: satellite A and satellite B, and in here we are creating that starship again. So we have read the starship, and it is correctly. Let's have a class not found exception there. So this is how you read object when you have saved it with this kind of a command. So it's pretty simple. If you are using objects and you want to save them, then you just serialize them. So you are basically implementing this serializable interface. You don't need to add any methods, no attributes, no nothing. Just implement the interface by just writing the implements serializable. So as a conclusion, Java offers a lot of tools to handle files and serialization also, so you don't need to build your own ways, just learn to use the offered classes and methods. There are plenty, and Oracle documentation, for example, it gives good overview on all these things.